This is Peter,
And this is Tom.
and you're listening to History Teachers Talking Podcasts. All right, welcome back to the podcast. This is Peter Zablocki and Thomas Reska.
Hello.
We thought that maybe we should do something that deals with the holidays, so here we are.
This is
But
our little holiday episode, somewhat.
exactly, this is our Christmas. Welcome to our Christmas special.
I guess more of a Christmas special. Yes, this is the
I would say Christmas
History
special.
Teacher podcast Christmas special.
A few things. So, when we kind of talked about doing this, we wrestled with the idea of, all right, let's try to do a holiday special. And again, there is a plethora of religions in the United States. I'm pretty sure every religion in the world is represented in the United States. It would be impossible for us to cover all of them and all the different holiday
and
traditions.
Just our 45-minute podcast.
Yeah. So 72% of religious affiliation in the United States, right? 72% is Christian. And that just fell from about 83% just 10 years ago. But 72% of Americans identify themselves as Christian and celebrate Christmas. The highest growing religion in the United States and the quickest growing religion in the United States is actually being atheist.
Really? Yeah, I could see that.
Yep. With about 20 or...
But that's not is that a religion?
Well, that's the thing.
They're not really a religion. They're just declaring themselves atheist, I guess.
The third largest religion in the United States is the Jewish religion, and that's only makes up about 1.7%. So I was unaware of the big disparity between Christian religion and the Jewish religion, and especially the fact that over 20% of Americans consider themselves to be non-believers. So I started researching this, and I said, well, what if you consider yourself to be an atheist? Does that mean that you don't really partake in any of the holiday festivities, you might say? And actually,
they still do, right? They just don't.
They still do.
They just celebrate the day. They celebrate the spirit.
It's not
the spirit of Christmas, the traditions of Christmas, but not the actual happy birthday Jesus aspect of it.
Exactly. So what I came to find out is, as you said, this is very much, and Christmas in the United States particularly has become very much a secular holiday. It's almost viewed as like a Hallmark holiday, which was never really the intent, because there's so much Christian. It's literally the birth of Jesus. That's what you're celebrating Christmas. But it has become so much more than about religion. Christmas is, as you said, it's just like this holiday spirit and this feeling of giving, and there's so many traditions.
If you just watch just watch Lifetime or Hallmark Channel, that's always on in my house at this time of year with all those
literally
all those Christmas specials. When the executive goes to a small town and finds love, but does she really want love? They're on.
Does she really want love?
Does she really want love? And it's the spirit of Christmas and all this stuff. But it's one of those things that it's part of Americana now, and we're just going to kind of explore how it becomes part of Americana, because a lot of it's become an Americanized, Westernized, whatever you want to call it, and it's celebrated differently in different parts of the world. But the Christmas that we're talking about is more of a American version of Christmas that is very, like you said, it just has a lot of aspects from other things that's pulled in from all over the place, with Santa Claus, with the reindeer, candy canes, presents, all that stuff. And we'll try to get to the bottom of some of the history behind some of those things.
Absolutely. Again, so this is not meant to be a religious episode. This is more of like the Americanized version of Christmas. And I also have some things that deal with Hanukkah as well.
Well, basically, the idea is, but before anything else, which I guess like Christmas, as has happened, as it's been around, or it's been celebrated for, they can say, about over 2,000 years, and they've been reserving it. People have been observing it, different traditions, practices. And it is supposedly to celebrate the anniversary of the birth of Jesus. And Christmas has actually been a federal holiday in the United States since 1870. So I'm going to give it that, and why it's celebrated the time of year that it is. The middle of winter has always been a time of celebration, like around the world. It's really because the people are celebrating the winter solstice. A lot of times they would slaughter all the animals because they didn't want to, or most of the animals because they didn't want to feed them during the winter. So they would slaughter them to have these big feasts. So then they would everyone would be eating meat and stuff like that. And it was a way to deal with like the longer nights because the days were so short. So that's one reason. So it corresponds with the winter solstice, basically. Because I've seen research with this before. I don't know if you're gonna get to this, Peter, but I know we're not gonna talk too much religion here. But Jesus was, a lot of historians will argue that the actual man who was Jesus of Nazareth was probably born in the summer. But one of the main reasons they celebrate Christmas as his birthday in the winter was because with the Romans and everything, they were able to celebrate, kind of like hide their celebrating of his birthday during the time of the winter solstice. They were able to hide it that way. That's one reason why they think that probably happened that way.
Hmm.
So tidbit there.
A lot of the holiday traditions that we have in this country actually come from
They're
Germany,
pagan. Yeah,
right?
a
I
lot
don't
more
think
pagan. Norse pagan. Yeah.
pagan German, yeah. Even like let's start it with I mean start with the main one, right? Your good old Christmas tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
That stems from they say like Middle Ages Germany and other European settlers that they kind of popularized the idea of a Christmas tree. They looked at something that was
Eternal, right? Was that the idea?
eternal. That was the whole point. I was looking for that
The
word and I couldn't
evergreen,
find
right?
it.
The tree that doesn't lose its leaves, all that stuff.
For the United States, particularly, the first really Christmas tree lot was in 1851. It was in New York. There was a woodsman named Mark Carr, and he is credited with opening the first ever U.S. Christmas tree lot in 1851. And again, it was mostly catering to Europeans.
Yeah, as
And
they came
then,
over, they wanted to bring the traditions with them.
exactly by 2019, there's a survey that was made by the American Christmas Tree Association that says that 77% of U.S. households, I know American Christmas
Christmas.
Tree Association, I was like, what? Um, Predicted that 77% of US households displayed a Christmas tree in their home, right? So among those trees on display, an estimated 81% were artificial and 19% were real, which means that most people that have a Christmas tree have an artificial Christmas tree.
Hmm.
I did not know that.
I could
See, I
say that
thought it would be the
if
other
you
way.
think in like the cities and things of that nature, like people are going to have, there's more people living there. They're probably going to have an artificial tree, just
Right? That
because
makes
it's probably
sense.
a lot more. It's a lot easier and things like that. Plus, if you have younger kids, it might be easier. You don't have those pine needles going everywhere. But I saw with
Or
the
animals.
yeah the animals, but the Christmas tree is obviously they were using this for a long time, and even in a lot of the cities in the 1800s when they were having these Christmas trees, if they didn't have electricity, they would actually put candles on the tree.
That's how my mom actually told me that that's the way used to do
Yeah,
it
yeah,
back in
and
Poland
yeah,
in like the 50s
yeah.
and
No, and I was
60s.
just like, wow, that's yeah. You're taking a dried out pine tree and you're putting it in your house and you're putting wax and candle and flame on it. Like that's
They're
that's
just
actions waiting
waiting.
to happen. I'm sure that happened quite a bit. I know it doesn't. It can't really happen now. I remember seeing a MythBusters episode where they put so many lights on a Christmas tree to try to set it on fire, and they even try to make the wires short circuit, and like specifically designed not to do that. That's why if like one light goes out, a lot of them might go out. It just makes sure
Wow.
that like they can't be a short and somehow like ignite your tree. But I guess as most people have plastic trees, it's that can still happen, but not as easily.
And now you have LED lights on them, which don't even get hot.
Well, now you just buy the tree. They buy the artificial tree. The lights are built in.
According to history.com, Martin Luther was actually the first person to add lights to a Christmas tree. Um, like the Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King,
Yes,
different.
I'm aware of
Um,
that.
apparently, he came up with the idea when he was admiring like stars that were glittering through the pine trees. That he was just standing outside and looking at these pine trees, and he saw the stars glittering behind him. He's like, "Wow, that's beautiful." So they said that he decided to bring a tree home and add candles to it to create a very similar effect that he could share with his family. So that's kind of where that supposedly comes from. And as I mentioned before, the Christmas tree itself was made popular in Germany in 1800s, and the German immigrants were the ones that kind of brought it over and brought that tradition over to
Yeah, because the
America.
Germans were basically a lot of them were pagan, and they honored the pagan god Odin. You know, Thor's dad, Odin,
Hmm.
and yeah, basically they were terrified of Odin. Odin was not like this beloved, like they shown like the Marvel movies, wasn't this like nice guy. They basically believed that he made like flights at night through the sky, and he would observe people, and if you were evil, he would kill you right there on the spot. So that's why a lot of people chose to stay inside during this time. Again, I think that kind of links into it's kind of a theory of that kind of links into with a lot of things that Santa Claus will eventually do. He's flying over the night sky looking for people who are doing good or bad deeds. In this case, a little more extreme that he just kills you right there if you're doing something naughty. But yeah, so there that Odin is actually a factor in Christmas time too.
Interesting, interesting. And kind of go with the idea of lights, in Christmas trees. Thomas Edison's friend, Edward Johnson, is the person responsible for bringing the idea of stringing bulbs around Christmas trees. They say by 1914 the lights were being mass produced, and now about 150 million sets of lights are sold in the United States each
Wow.
year. Should we get Saint Nick out of the way over here?
Yeah, I guess we kind of talk. I kind of went that way, I guess, with the whole Odin thing. So we might as well talk a little bit about.
Might as well talk about it
I
a
mean,
little bit.
you think Christmas? That's probably like the number two thing that people think of.
So Santa Claus, right? What do we got about Santa
Well, there's a
Claus?
lot with Santa, so we got to talk about kind of like the origins, the idea of Saint Nicholas, and then the Americanized version of Saint Nicholas that also comes. So the legend of Santa, they can actually trace back to a monk named Saint Nicholas who was born in Turkey around 280 AD. And he basically would give away all of his inherited wealth. He was rich and gave away a lot of this wealth and traveled the countryside, helping the poor, helping the sick. He was known as the protector of children and sailors. So he was well known. And it really starts to enter into American popular culture like the 18th century in New York. Like a lot of Dutch families came over. They honored the anniversary of his death of Saint Nicholas, okay, the Dutch saint for Saint Nicholas, or Santa Claus for short, and then slowly over time that becomes Santa Claus. But really became big in the United States was a poem by Clement Clark Moore called
Yes,
an account
the
of it.
night before Christmas.
Well, no, it was called an account of visit from Saint Nicholas. We know it today by the first line of the poem, which is "'Twas the night
Which
before
is the night
Christmas,"
before. Yep.
and this was put in all the newspapers in 1822. And this poem really became like the American version of Saint Nicholas, of Santa Claus, this jolly fat man who flies around in a sleigh. It's the first time the reindeer, which we'll get to, the reindeer get names, delivering toys,
Mhm.
and people read this, and there was a little sketch that went along with the poem in a lot of the newspapers of Santa Claus, and he's actually tiny. Santa Claus himself at this time, they say it in the play that he's a jolly old elf. So he's a tiny little guy. He's not this big guy. He's not wearing red. Actually, in a lot of the earlier images of Santa Claus, he's wearing green. The image
Mhm.
of red Santa actually doesn't come out until the 1920s.
Thomas Nast.
Well,
But Thomas Nast is the one that creates Santa as we know him, right? Harper's Weekly,
yeah, but
late 1800s.
that comes in place. But the whole red and white
Yeah, that makes sense.
is Coca Cola, because Coca Cola puts
Yep.
Santa Claus in their advertisements, and Coca Cola's colors are red and white. So the whole idea of Santa wearing red and white is Coca Cola. So you see those early images in the 20s of Santa Claus like a chocolate in the lap, and that's from Coca Cola. So I thought that was kind of crazy. I remember reading about that before,
Yeah,
but that Coca Cola actually influenced the colors of Santa. That's why he wears red and white, because Coca Cola said he does.
that's insane, isn't it?
So that's kind of there's that Americana idea, because you see Santa Claus in a lot of other countries, he's not necessarily wearing red and white, at least like the true Father Christmas version.
And and as I was saying before with Thomas Nast, so
Yeah,
Thomas
he was big
Nast,
on that.
very known cartoonist, 1800s. He illustrated Santa for Harper's Weekly, late 1800s, and that's where we get this idea of Santa being like this kind of chubby, white beard,
Jolly old,
elderly
yeah,
dude.
yeah,
Yeah, like jolly old elderly dude, like a round guy. Like that comes from Thomas Nast. Before that, there was no, like I said, I guess Coca Cola, you might say, popularized it eventually and kind of solidified what Santa looks like. But Thomas Nast is the first one to really say, no, it's like this older dude that has a white beard and a big belly and suspenders.
yeah. Presented that
And
modern image.
read anything about mall Santas?
I saw some things about like the whole idea of a mall Santa, and it's got a lot of different places have argued that they were the first ones to have a mall Santa.
Yep. So one of these people is James Edgar of Massachusetts, right? In 1890,
Yeah, James
he had a
Edgar.
store. Yeah, he had a store, and basically, to attract people, he decided he's going to dress like Santa. So he made himself a suit, dressed as Santa, and kind of hung out at his dry goods store. And it was a gimmick, really, for kids to come in.
Yeah, because go
And
get your picture
then
taken with Santa, go see Santa.
exactly, and it was the idea, go see Santa, go see Santa. And then before you know it, he was like, well, maybe I'll charge a little bit, like a couple pennies here and there for me to talk to these kids as Santa. And that's kind of really where the department store Santa comes from.
Yeah, well, but in Macy's argues that they were the first ones to do it. That they were
Yeah.
hosting Santa since the 1860s, and 62.
1862,
Yeah,
they said.
but yeah, so they have this whole debate what's going on, because obviously Macy's with their Thanksgiving Day parade, it ends with Santa every year, and 20 Miracle on what was it, Miracle on 24th Street, right? Am I saying
Yep.
that right? That was with a Macy's Santa. So the whole idea of Santa Claus and Macy's kind of also tied in with American culture. But yeah, James Edgar argues that he had it first, and but it starts that trend. Now you see the mall Santas everywhere. And I read another article. Those guys that who are playing mall Santas, they can make a lot of money just in that
And they
short.
they take it very seriously,
I'll
some of
take
these
it. They
guys.
take it very seriously, rightfully so. I mean, they're doing a great thing for the kids, and most of them are pretty nice. I actually have a I don't know if I shared this, but it was an interesting story that actually happened. Was it last year? Actually, in the mall by me, it was in the papers and stuff. The I didn't have my son with me at the time, but we were in the mall buying something else, and all of a sudden we saw these ambulances, paramedics, and the Santa actually had a heart attack
Oh,
right there in
Jesus.
the
Oh, no
mall.
pun intended.
Yeah.
No pun
He had a heart attack right there in the mall, and then they replaced him with a different Santa like halfway through. Like there was like a delay because the other Santa they had to bring in another Santa. I think he
I'm
didn't.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm laughing.
It,
Did he live? I mean, I hope
from
he
what
did.
I mean, I don't know exactly. I think he did. I read something in the paper. I remember I was there when it was going on, and I remember seeing it on like a little like blurb and like the local paper, and they said I believe it said the guy was okay, but he I did have like a mild. I think they called it like a mild episode, but they had to actually like replace him. Like maybe that must have been traumatizing for the kids. That's what I was thinking. I was just really happy that I didn't have my kids, with me at that point.
Imagine that.
But that
What's happening to Santa? Oh, he's having a heart attack. A new Santa will come.
yeah, literally,
That's
it was like 20 minutes later, a new Santa comes. Like they just had a guy on standby. Like we had to bring in the replacement Santa. So,
that is
but it
insane.
was kind of like, oh, that could have been traumatizing.
That is
So
insane.
anyway, but
Anyway,
I guess still some going with Santa. I don't know if you want to keep with Santa now or what do we want to do?
yeah. What else you got? What else you got with Santa?
Well, obviously he's super popular. He becomes this staple basically of it. The Salvation Army has been sending Santa's places, right? Collecting since the 1890s. You had a famous thing that happens in a lot of bars around the country. We have Santa Con or the Santa Crawl. I'm sure you heard about that.
Hmm.
They actually had
Or Santa runs.
yeah, Santa runs, but the one in Hoboken actually got shut down in New Jersey because so many of these young kids would come. And basically, the idea was you dress up like Santa and you go to the different bars. And
Hmm.
it became so intense that you actually had thousands and thousands of these college kids dress up as Santa Claus. That then the next day there was they were calling like ruckus, chaos. The next day you have all these like passed out Santas all throughout the streets of Hoboken, New Jersey, and stuff like that. So they actually banned it. They no longer allow it because they just got too out of hand.
It's like, hey, mommy, what? Why is that Santa
Yeah.
laying in his
It was always the
vomit?
same thing. It was in like Hoboken. It was in New York City, all at the same time.
Of course,
So,
it's in Jersey.
so
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. We
magical.
just had a Zoom call with Santa earlier today.
Oh, you win.
So
You
yeah, so
win.
my one son punched the screen. So I was like, oh,
That's always
that's not gonna go over very well. The other son was like, my oldest son was terrified. He's like, oh my god. He's like, you're gonna be on the notice list now.
what's Santa doing in a computer?
No, he just punched the screen. He's like, I don't know. I said, I'm on the bad list and just punched Santa. I'm like, oh,
Going back to Christmas, you just mentioned briefly something about the Salvation Army bell ringers.
mm-hmm.
So that kind of stems from. By the way, that's still going on today. I saw someone in my town, wearing a mask and everything, and doing it last week, which is awesome. So collecting money for the needy really stems from since like 1891, and tradition for the Salvation Army bell ringers started in San Francisco. With a Salvation Army captain Joseph McPhee. He wanted to raise money to offer a free Christmas dinner to about 1,000 people in the city. Um, and he was very much inspired by this kettle that he saw in England, where people tossed in coins for the poor. So he kind of set up his own kettle version. That's kind of where it comes from. It comes the idea of a kettle and from England. Painted it red, and his idea kind of quickly spread around the country and the world. And today, Salvation Army helps more than 4.5 million people during the holiday season, which is kind of cool. And actually, they're kind of, definitely 2020 here. They now accept donations made via
Yeah,
smartphones,
smartphones,
especially
yeah,
like
Venmo and all that stuff. I
yeah,
saw they
yeah,
have a giant one in Times Square. I believe that you can just walk by and like swipe your card or swipe your Apple code, and it'll just donate it that way. You don't have to go near it.
that's kind of cool, right? Um, cr- uh, Christmas cards. Did you find anything about Christmas cards?
Other than a whole bunch have been coming in the mail lately. No, I didn't really look up anything on the
So
idea of
the
Christmas. Well,
first
I know they were mailed in. I think England was the first place, right? That's where they were.
Yeah, it was. So Christmas cards initially were not cards per se. They were you would send these Christmas notes and
A message, yeah,
messages,
like a message to
and
send to
people would
people.
actually write them out. Yeah, you would write them out. But then what happened is the very first official Christmas card, right, was invented by Englishman Sir Henry Cole in 1843. So Cole was too busy to kind of write the individualized Christmas greetings to his relatives, which is what people did back then. So he commissioned his artist friend, John Horsley, to illustrate a scene with like a short message on the back. So Horsley, again, did this guy a solid, printed 1,000 of these cards, and a scene in the card kind of showed a holiday celebration, and it read, "Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you." And that is the first official Christmas card, 1843.
And it catches on.
Yep.
Hallmark catches on, right? With
Yes.
that, and they're the ones that put the make it like the card we know today, but like the folding card slot with an like with an envelope in it, so they can actually mail them and
Yep.
stuff like that. And now it's becoming a whole big thing. Got to go get your holiday pictures, whatever. And
Well, it's 2 billion. As they say that nearly 2 billion Christmas cards are sent
oh yeah, I'm sure.
every year.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it came to the United States in the 18 before homework. Actually, in 1874, an American Louis Prang opened a shop in Boston
Yeah, but I think
where
what
he
Hallmark
basically
is when it
sold.
catches on fire.
Absolutely, it actually says that once Hallmark took it, it was produced like 5 million cards every year, um, even in 1800s, which is crazy. Another story that kind of comes in here is, do you hear the story behind the story of Rudolph? I think that's an interesting
Well, yeah. Well, the whole
Christmas
idea
tale.
he was it was created. It was a short story that
Hmm.
was made to bring people into a. It was a book that they gave to parents if they spent so much money at like a department store.
Hmm.
So that's basically how it caught on, like another one of Santa's reindeer.
Yeah, so it was.
Robert
It was.
Lay May, I believe, right?
Yep.
Robert L. May, yeah.
Yep, Robert May, Chicago department store. So it was a coloring book. He created a coloring book and like a story that went along with it. Um,
It really catches on big when you have the in the '60s, yeah, '60s when that Rudolph and the Island of Misfit Toys comes out. That's when he was really
yes.
popular. And there was a cartoon, I believe, that came out shortly after that, maybe like Disney, short, 5 minutes. But when that stop go animation, whatever you want to call it, which was really popular in this 1960s, when that Rudolph and the Misfit Toys came out, that was when he became like an American symbol. It was Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Yep.
Reindeer. It was with that
Yep.
toys and the Island of Misfit Toys and Santa and all that stuff.
Well, so there's also a cool story behind this whole book in itself and the story because it originated in 1939, right? Montgomery Ward, Chicago department store, asked the copywriter Robert May to create this coloring book for children. And May himself used to be teased a lot as a boy, so he wrote about a reindeer who was teased for his, red nose, and ultimately found acceptance. But not long after he created his book in 1939, May's wife got cancer and passed away, and kind of left him with a lot of medical debts and a young daughter to care for. So Montgomery Ward, the owner of the Chicago store, actually gave May the rights to Rudolph, even though it belonged to the store. But they gave the rights to Rudolph back to May, so he could publish it and make some money off of it. And that's what they did. They basically his May's brother-in-law was a musician, and he said the words to music, and that's where Rudolph the
The
Red-Nosed
song
Reindeer
came out, yeah.
become a song, and which is kind of really neat. It's a cool Christmas story, I guess.
Yeah, well, I guess
All
since
right.
we're on the talk about Rudolph, might as well talk about how the reindeer got thrown onto this. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
theories out there, but so the biggest one is probably that a lot of pagans were converting to Christianity during the Middle Ages. A lot of these winter festivals and traditions, and a lot of their beliefs kind of got entangled with these Christian beliefs and became celebrations for Christmas. And a lot of this comes from Thor. Obviously, we know him for Chris Hemsworth, the Marvel movies, but he was a really popular the god of thunder in Norse mythology. And he was probably one of the most popular of all these gods. And there are a lot of images and stories that Thor basically flew through the skies, not with his hammer, but with a sled pulled by two large horned goats. That's basically what he would do. And he would fly over. That's how Thor would go places. He had these two mystical goats that would pull his sled. And they're thinking that that kind of morphed in with the whole idea that a lot of these people are from Eastern Europe, Scandinavia. You had these large populations of reindeer, and then they just kind of morphed in with having the whole idea of reindeer pulling the sleigh, because they were considered like these mysterious creatures. And there's actually a interview that an individual who wrote one of the editors for the New York Sentinel, who published the Nightmare Before Christmas, the Night
Mhm.
Before Christmas, and he basically talked about it. And he's like, "Well, how do the reindeer get to the roof?" And he says, "Oh, they fly." So that kind of like gets thrown in with that whole thing. And that was in 1823. And the
Hmm.
names are actually first. The first time the reindeer get names was in that visit from Saint Nicholas. "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." And he says, now Dasher, now Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid. In the original story, it's actually Dunder and Blixen, not Donner and Blitzen. It actually changes over time. And those words, Dunder and Blixen, are actually the German words for thunder and lightning. So, and they get replaced eventually in the 20th century. They actually change that, make them more anglicized, whatever you want to call it.
That's kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, so the original one is actually Dunder and Blixen. I thought that was kind of weird, but we know it as Donner and Blitzen.
Hmm.
So that was kind of cool, and just kind of all right. These little tidbits.
What else you got? You got anything else?
I got tons. So what are we talking about? All
I
right,
mean, I was going to go to poinsettias. You want to go to poinsettias?
poinsettias are just flowers. No, go ahead. Go ahead. That then I got some stuff on candy canes.
They're just flowers. Let's go to
They're just
candy
red
canes instead.
flowers.
They're actually named after a guy who's Joseph Poinsett. He was an ambassador, a U.S. ambassador to Mexico, which is
Okay.
kind of interesting. So watch this. So he goes to Mexico. He's an ambassador there in 1800s, and he's intrigued by these like vibrant red flowers. That the fact that he's really intrigued by um, is the fact that they kind of bloomed in the Advent season, like they bloom in winter. So he thought it was kind of interesting, and he was a botanist as like a hobby, and he decided to bring the flower back to the United States. So he did, and he basically named a flower after
I
himself.
did hear
And
that. I did. Right.
yeah,
Okay.
Joseph Poinsett, named it poinsettias. Um, and he started sending these things out all over different media outlets. And that's kind of how it caught on. And he would do this around the holidays every single year. So I thought it was kind of interesting. All right, let's go to candy canes. I know
Candy
that's more
canes.
interesting.
All right. So a lot of people, they even eat candy canes, right? They hang them on the trees. It's actually the number one selling non-chocolate candy during December.
Yes, I did
Um,
see that.
so it dates all the way back to the 1670s in Germany. And really, there's a lot of theories with a candy cane, what it's supposed to represent with um, the white and red stripes. The whole idea is that if you really look at like a real candy, when I say real candy cane, not like the Starburst, the gummy bear candy cane, but like a traditional type of candy cane, should be one line that's thicker, and they said that's supposed to represent the blood of Christ. That whole thing. So again, a candy cane is actually a pretty religious symbol, and the reason it has its shape as of a cane is a shepherd's cane. Again, when the shepherd sees the Star of David shining in the sky. All right, so that's what it's supposed to represent. And then a lot of people were arguing that it's also, if you flip the candy cane over, it's a J for Jesus. That's kind of just like not really why it was made there. But they really become popular in the United States in the 1840s when you have an immigrant named in Worcester, Ohio, that basically starts selling these. And then by the 1950s, when it really becomes popular, because by that point you have automation, they created an automated candy making machine. And then once that comes to place, you're just getting them everywhere. That's where it becomes a staple. And then that kind of ties in with the Santa Claus. You go visit Santa. What does Santa give you? He gives you one of those little candy canes, right? You get a candy cane when you visit Santa. So it kind of ties in with the mall Santas becoming really popular with the consumer culture in the 1950s. The candy, you have the automated machine. All that comes together. And now it's pretty much become like a staple. And you have that song, right? Leave a peppermint stick for old Saint Nick, rock around the Christmas tree, all that other good stuff. So it just becomes Americana after that point. I always thought
Two
that was
things
cool.
just two things. Yeah, that's cool. That two things just popped in my head. One is something that you said that dealt with like the hidden Christian meaning that we often
Yeah,
forget,
yeah.
in something as simple. And the other thing is talk about a song. I just remembered, didn't you dance with your mom at your
We weren't going to
wedding?
bring that up, but yeah. Yes, the
I
the
do.
song, at my wedding, the song that the son always dances.
I just remembered.
Yes, the son always dances with their mother to a song, and the song that my mother and I danced to was "Frosty the Snowman." So yes, it was a Christmas song.
Yes. You care to elaborate?
Yeah, apparently when I was young, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, I told my mom when Frosty the Snowman came on the radio that was going to be my wedding song. It was going to be Frosty the Snowman. So then when the wedding came, I go, "All right, what song should we dance to?" we decided, she was like, "Oh, let's do Frosty the Snowman because you said that was going to be your wedding song, so we'll dance to that song." And I remember, 'cause we had a band at my wedding, and then they were like, we told them, "Yeah, can you play Frosty the Snowman?" And they were like, "Wait, what? Really?" And they thought it was like a joke. Like, yeah, yeah, no, no. They like, usually it's like, they had a list of songs. No, we can do any of these songs if you want to your mother. These are nice, like father daughter, father daughter, mother son songs.
Mother, father,
Mother,
cousin.
father, yeah, whatever. It's a long day. It's a long day. Been shoveling all day. No,
Uh,
mother son songs, and they did Frosty and the Snowman. And if you remember, I remember this. They didn't do the whole song. They did like only part of it, and they're like, "All right, let's do something." Like they were just, they felt very awkward. I think singing this song. I don't even know if they knew the whole thing, but it's memorable. I don't think there's many other people I could that honestly I can say have Frosty the Snowman as their one of their wedding songs. So
that is definitely a
it's
true
unique.
statement. I
It's
get it.
unique. Yes.
It's unique. So, the other part, the other thing I kind of got from what you were saying with the candy cane, the hidden Christian meaning, is door wreaths. Like,
Hmm.
we all have these wreaths that are hanging over the place,
Yeah, they're there for a
but
reason.
really, what they represent, the holly leaves and berries are symbolic of Christ's crown
Yeah,
and thorns and
the
blood.
blood. Yeah, which is really not. I'm not the right word,
I
but
mean, you don't think about that when you hang a wreath.
no,
You know
it's
what I
like,
mean? You're
oh,
like,
you
oh,
make it. Plus, you have to always buy. You can buy little reefs, right? Your little reef kits, so you can make like your kids
yeah,
and stuff
there's a
like
little
that.
red bow.
And you put the
They
red bows.
represent blood
Yeah,
of
it's like, yeah,
Jesus.
there's the
Like,
blood and the thorns they put on Jesus's head. Like it is like some intense stuff. Yeah,
yeah, but again, just shows how much we've commercialized. I mean,
exactly.
again, we're talking about American Christmas. It's not Christian per se Christmas.
Well, yeah, we want to talk
Um,
about the other Christmas. I know we're getting a little off topic, but I have a one of my fellow coworkers. He actually taught for many years in Germany, and he was talking about, this is before like the movie, about Krampus. He was telling me about Krampus. This was years ago, and I didn't really know much about Krampus. I heard of it, whatever. He actually brought in, and a couple years ago he brought in like a video VHS of his, when he's older now, when his kids were like very young. And in Germany, you can actually have a guy come to your house. Like it's like, they have like the mall Santas here. You can like pay some guy to come to your house that looks like an evil version of Santa. Not like the Krampus with like the horns and that like beast. He looks a
yeah.
lot like Santa, but he's Krampus. And he comes in, and the kids are supposed to tell him the bad things he does, and then he hits the kids with a bunch of twigs, and he hits
Hmm.
them with these twigs, and that's supposed to, like, all right, now you be good from now on and listen to your parents. So he was actually showing this video to us, and we were like, oh my god. Imagine like you're a 6 7 year old kid, this guy comes to your door, he's a guy was huge, he has a beard and everything, he comes in, he's yelling at you. Now, this was German, so it's also kind of intense. Okay. He's yelling at these kids, and then the kids have to tell him the bad things to do. And the kids are crying because they're saying the bad things. And then the guy starts hitting them, not hard, but he's hitting them with sticks, this like bundle of sticks. And she's like, "You be good, otherwise I'm going to come and put you in my sack." And then he leaves. And I was just like, wow, if that's going to traumatize a kid. I don't know. You see these kids that cry when they have to go in like Santa's lap and stuff. I'm like, imagine if Santa was like beating them with sticks and stuff like that. But no, I just thought it was an
Great.
interesting little tidbit there for
Um,
Krampus.
one one other tradition around the holidays, which I think it's with I don't know where the world is going, but Charlie Brown Christmas,
Yes,
right?
everyone loves Charlie Brown
Which
Christmas.
which has been first time it aired was December 9th, 1965, and it's aired every single year since then until this year when Apple bought the rights to Charlie Brown
Yeah, but
Holiday Special.
I remember they still broadcast it. I believe the Charlie
No,
Brown
they did.
Christmas, because there was
They-
such outcry. There was such an outcry that it
yeah.
wasn't on TV. So I'm sure they'll probably do the same thing with Charlie Brown Christmas.
Well, no, I know, but think about it. You need to actually have it's the free subscription to Apple TV, but unless you have streaming and internet,
You don't
right,
get it. You
you
can't have it.
cannot watch Charlie Brown Christmas anymore.
Yeah.
Versus this was over the air,
I used to be on like,
right,
yeah, every channel all the time. Yeah.
continuously since
You
1965.
can buy the
Which
tree. You can buy, they call it like if a Christmas tree is like falling apart, they just go, "Oh, that's a Charlie Brown Christmas tree." Like
I actually have a little Charlie Brown
yeah.
Christmas tree. I bought it. I
You
have
can
it in my
buy one, but
store.
I know just like that was always like the saying. If it was like a small Christmas tree that was like, everything was coming off it. Oh, that's a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. That was like, it became part of like the holiday. Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is that initially it was rejected by CBS because they said it was too Christian. And when I started thinking about it, and I watched it, I watch it every year with my kids, but I watched it last year. And when you start thinking about when they start singing and all that, you're just like, yeah, this actually is a
Oh
very
yeah,
like
yeah.
religious cartoon. And you don't think about that until you actually think about it. Next time, guys, you're out there watching Charlie Brown Christmas, think about it from like the CBS 1960s perspective when they're like, maybe this is a little too religious.
And it kind of ushered in for all these other Christmas specials to come out because of how popular that was. Again, you have like the Rudolph ones, you have Frosty, you have
All
crazy
right, get to
ones.
your favorite one. Get to your
Well,
Shira.
you have no, you have other ones. I was going to talk about probably one that you like, that the Star Wars holiday special,
Oh my goodness,
the
the worst
original
holiday
that
special of
George
all.
Lucas still says hasn't happened. Have you ever seen it? I've actually seen it. You can find the clips now on
Mhm.
YouTube. It is bad.
Oh, I've seen it.
First
It
of all,
is bad.
Carrie Fisher,
Yeah,
no disrespect, but she is high, drunk, and everything. She's admitted to this later on. That's why I'm saying in like her
yeah.
autobiography that she was on like some. She was just didn't even know
On drugs.
she was. You know
Yeah,
what was even going on when she was singing in this one. But tip I know, like Star Wars fans know this. That's the first time you ever saw Boba Fett was in that holiday
yes.
special.
He was a
It was
cartoon.
like
He
it
was a
was a
little
cartoon, and then they showed him in Empire Strikes Back later on. But that was the first time you ever saw Boba Fett, and he's back now, right? He's back in the Mandalorian, I believe.
He is.
I,
Oh, did you see it?
no,
Oh, it
I
looks
haven't
so
seen the last couple episodes. I have to see, but
intense.
I heard he is back, so that's kind of cool.
But in a He-Man and She-Ra special,
Oh my
right?
god, I know that's my favorite. I watch it every year.
I knew it. That's why
My
I said
kids,
that.
the He I know. I was when Peter and I sometimes talk about the podcast, like what are you going to talk about. I'm like, listen, if we're going to do holidays, I have to talk about holiday specials and the He-Man She-Ra Christmas special, which is if you haven't seen it, I'm sure it's on YouTube. You can buy the DVD. I had the DVD that comes with another DVD that just talks about like behind the scene makings. When I was a kid, I don't know. There's something about it was just so. I've watched it since then. I watch it with my kids, and like it's not very good. I know it's not very good.
Again, some of these things just don't age well.
It doesn't
No.
age well. It's He-Man and She-Ra, but the thing that I loved so much about it when I was a kid was that they somehow come to like Earth, like our Earth, and these two little kids find them, and two little kids find Skeletor, and then he teaches they teach Skeletor about Christmas, and then Skeletor becomes nice for a day because he gets the Christmas spirit, and Skeletor's all angry that he has a Christmas spirit, and he's helping these little kids get back home. And I just like, oh, this is
Oh,
awesome.
good.
They even make Skeletor, Christmas even makes Skeletor like a good guy and stuff like that. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
goodness.
You're laughing at me.
Um,
I thought it
no,
was
I'm not.
cool,
I'm
man.
not. But you know what movie does hold up though? That's a holiday tradition, and
Elf,
it's A Wonderful Life,
Wonderful Life.
right?
I actually saw it
So
for the
it's a,
first time, continuous all the way through last year.
the first time. Oh, that's an amazing
I've seen
movie.
it. I definitely have seen all of it before, but I'm talking about, all right, it comes on, watch the entire thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What'd you think? What'd you think?
it was fine. I mean, it's a holiday movie. It was really bad in the
It was a
movie. It
flop
was a
when it came
complete
out.
flop. It only became big like later on with the whole
Well,
idea of
actually, that's an
being on
interesting story
TV.
too. So it came out in 1946, right? Frank Capra's with Jimmy Stewart, and Jimmy Stewart is an interesting story as well. So Jimmy Stewart actually had fought. This movie came out in 1946, and Jimmy Stewart literally won an Oscar and then went and fought in World War II. Like he was a bomber
Yeah,
pilot and he flew sorties, he flew missions. They said that a lot of his biographers believe that when he came back, he actually had PTSD. Like this guy saw so much carnage of war.
definitely.
And again, he chose to do this. So when he came back and he's playing George Bailey and he's playing this kind of depressed character, he actually was extremely depressed in the filming of this movie. And so George Bailey's the suicidal guy. Um, Obviously, that meets an angel that shows him what life would be without him. But as you mentioned, the movie was a flop, even though it was nominated for 5 Oscars. It didn't win any, but the reason it became so known and it became a holiday
The
tradition
copyright. Talking
in
about
the
the
United States,
copyright, right? That's what I
exactly
mean.
in 19 yeah. So no one really cared about this movie, and the producers kind of lapsed the copyrights in 1970s. It kind of just went out there and it was no longer copyrighted because people forgot to renew the copyright for it, and therefore it was free for TV stations. So they kind of grabbed this free movie in the 70s and started showing it exclusively on
Yeah,
NBC.
so you have to pay
Um,
royalties.
yeah, because they didn't have to pay any royalties. Um, and since then, it's on NBC every single year.
It's on all the channels. I think on some of the channels they show it like
They
nonstop,
said
right?
USA, NBC at least since 1994 continuously has not yet stopped.
Yeah, I think like TNT shows it like, well, that and A Christmas Story, TBS.
No, that Christmas
They show
Story,
it like
which
all
is
day long,
high up.
nonstop. Yeah,
I've actually been to that house, the Christmas tree,
Christmas
the
Story House.
Christmas Story house. Yeah, I went there with my kids last year. It's very interesting roadside
But you just
attraction.
think about like the whole Wonderful Life. Think how many shows did that parody? Like what's my life like? What's life like if I'm not? What's
Yeah,
the world like when I'm not here? Like every every show has like that one episode at some point, like a parody of
yeah.
it, and in some way, shape, or form. So,
So, one other one before I'll let you jump into something is the idea of stockings. I feel like we should have done that before when we talked about Saint Nick's.
oh yeah,
So, according to a legend, original Saint Nick, while he was traveling from village to village, heard about this merchant, right, that who had fallen in hard times and couldn't afford dowries for his three daughters. So, Saint Nick knew this man would never accept money. So, what he did is he threw 3 sacks of gold down the family chimney. And apparently, the sacks landed in the daughter's stockings that were drying by the fireplace. And that kind of became the story that inspired this idea of, you know what? As a child, you should hang your or leave your stockings by the fireplace in hopes that Saint Nick would leave you some little presents in there too, which I thought was kind of a cool
yeah,
story.
hanging the dry and stuff, right? Those sorts of things.
Yeah,
All right, let me do one that's a little bit more modern.
go
So
for it.
one that came out in 2005, and that's
Oh,
the
I know we're gonna do this Elf.
that's the Elf on a
Oh,
Shelf, which
oh,
I guess
commercializing
you
holidays.
could like it, you could love it, or you could hate it, because it can create a lot of drama in a household. Um,
Yes.
Basically, idea it was a book that came out. Carol Abersold and her daughter Shanda Bell published this book, Elf on the Shelf, a Christmas tradition, and they commercialized it. It comes with a toy, and it really caught on when people started posting pictures of it on social media of the elf doing these crazy things like TPing the Christmas tree, putting elves, getting into like a vat of eggnog or spilling stuff over, and it became this huge big thing. Now they have elf pets and elf this and elf that. It's definitely shown the commercialization of Christmas, and it's a big issue, especially if you have kids. You know what we're talking about if you have one of these things, because it's what the elf is going to do. Where I got to find the elf. If one kid wakes up before the other kid, and if one kid tries to touch the elf with the whole using his elf magic powers and stuff like that, it can be pretty stressful. It can be pretty intense. This Elf on a Shelf. Um, I didn't even really know about it until my wife brought one home. That's just kind of
Oh no, you do it.
how.
You do it.
Oh yeah, we do it. Yeah, we do it. I'm probably gonna have to after this go and move around. What was good we did this year. I'm not gonna say good, but what helped was that when the elf went up, we kept him in a little box, this like Christmas cookie box, and just said, "Oh, he's in
Mhm.
quarantine for 2 weeks." So so that gave us so that gave us
You quarantined your
we
elf.
quarantined the elf. Yeah, so we gave him 2 weeks when he wasn't allowed to like move around. He just had to stay in the box. So that was good.
Oh,
But now that his quarantine ran out, so now we have to go and put them different places and have them in these different scenarios and stuff like that. But
oh, you
no, it makes it.
kill.
You do it for the children, Peter. You do it for the children. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. You mentioned eggnog. It actually descends from a medieval drink,
mhm.
posset, I think. And evolves through years. It was made of initially ale, hot milk, spices, and other liquors. And then later on is when eggs were actually added to the mix, right? It says experts believe that nog comes from the word nogging, or noggin, rather, a wooden cup used in pubs. So that's why it's eggnog, because there was an egg based drink that was spiced with liquors that came with a wooden cup, which was also known as
but
noggin.
that's also very
So,
Americanized because the Americans are the ones, the colonists actually, that put rum into it. They were the ones that said,
yes.
"Let's put rum into it." Yeah, and it became like the recipes and everything.
And they said George Washington was one of, he loved eggnog. That was like his thing.
Yeah, he had his own special recipe, right?
Yep.
So yeah, going back
So
to that,
anyway, so that you kind of brought that up. That was interesting. And then mistletoe. Mistletoe is a little odd,
which is
right? I mean,
poisonous. It is poisonous.
it is, and it was interesting is at first it comes from mistletoe's history is kind of, they said, rooted deeply in mythology as well, kind of like a lot of these things. And it said the plant was known throughout history for its healing properties, even though like we know for a fact today that it's actually extremely poisonous. Keep it away from your pets. And tradition of hanging mistletoe in homes could have come from several places. Main one thinks the main idea is that it was ancient druids believed that a plant restored fertility, possibly due to the fact that it bloomed during winter. I mean, I I don't understand mistletoe. I've never actually like, besides movies. What are the
I've
odds
never
on?
actually seen it and then have like two people have to like kiss underneath it. Like I've never seen that
Never,
in
never. I,
actual life. So, but I guess it makes for a good
I
plot in those movies, especially the Hallmark and Lifetime movies, right? And
right,
the
right.
executive sees a mistletoe, she kisses and falls in love.
Done. You
Christmas
know what we
magic.
didn't mention though when we talked about the Charlie Brown special in It's a Wonderful Life, the U log.
Yeah, well, I was going to go with the U-log at some point. Yes.
All right, go hit up U log. You want to hit up U
Yeah, a
log?
little
I
bit
mean,
about the U-log. Well, it basically it goes back to the whole idea of the winter solstice,
yeah.
burning wood, staying warm, and stuff. It actually was like really popular. And back in the '60s, 1966, WPIX, which around here would be Channel 11, in New York, aired a continuous loop. It was for hours, like 6, 7 hours, but it was actually only 17 seconds of an actual fireplace, and they would just play holiday music behind it, and then that people just like they did that for 20 years. Eventually, they got rid of it. They actually brought it back a couple of years ago, and also you can find it on YouTube or on the internet now. People have these U logs and they just play holiday music. It's the idea of having that burning fire in your home, keeping you warm Christmas morning, that sort of thing. But yeah, the original one was only 13 seconds long on a continuous loop. I thought that
Cray
was
cray.
interesting. Yeah,
All right, what
absolutely.
else you got?
Let's see. Well, what types of things I talking about? Well, how about something that a lot of people like to do, which is the idea of gingerbread houses, which actually
Okay.
comes from Queen Elizabeth I. She gets credit for this, for decorating gingerbread cookies. Once again, the Germans lay claim to starting the whole gingerbread house tradition, though. So she's decorating the cookies, but the Germans have that. And the German brothers Grimm wrote the story Hansel and Gretel. I'm sure everyone heard of that. So they talk about that, and they said that it was a gingerbread house that the lady was basically living in, and that creates this new holiday tradition. So the whole idea of like edible decorations that you see, that kind of all stems from the idea of a gingerbread house in Hansel and Gretel and decorating the cookies, which is something that Queen Elizabeth I liked to do. It just kind of snowballs from there. Now you can buy like the prepackaged ones, like Target or anywhere. It's a whole set altogether. Whenever we try to make them, they do not look like they look on the box. That's all I can say. They don't.
No,
They,
no.
they don't come out like that.
I have a couple Hanukkah ones that I thought were kind of interesting. So the one idea with Hanukkah, it really kind of exploded as like a major commercial phenomenon in the United States, ultimately, and it was thought of that way primarily because it overlapped Christmas. So from a religious perspective, Hanukkah overall remained a very relatively small holiday, up to its Americanization, I guess. It didn't really have any restrictions on working, attending school, activities. Like you could just kind of go about your day, kind of thing. But then after World War II, it was decided that Jewish children should have something that was also special, also at the time of the more Christian holiday as well, which is when it became extremely commercialized in the sense of, hey, we should exchange gifts. The one interesting thing that like the dreidel games. I don't know if you heard this one, but
Well, you got
the
to. I don't. I'm sure you remember. I grew up where I grew up. It was I lived in a very Orthodox neighborhood. Jewish
yep.
Orthodox neighborhood growing up. We were the only house with Christmas lights. So I was pretty well. My friends growing up were all Jewish, and I remember playing the dreidel game. We would go over for these for Hanukkah service. I'd go over with my friend's house because that's what you did. I wanted to hang out with
Yeah,
my friends. They're all celebrating Hanukkah, and they were always in awe of like the Christmas stuff, and I was in awe. I like the Hanukkah stuff. So seeing something different was kind of cool.
it is kind of cool. The dreidel actually comes from. It was a way for young Jewish kids and that were studying Jewish scripture to distract
Yeah,
and trick Greek soldiers. The time when the Greeks disallowed Judaism and the study of scripture, so they said that it was like a way to distract the Greeks, and they played dreidel every time a Greek soldier come out, like, oh, we're just playing dreidel, but really they were actually studying scripture, which in itself was the dreidel game was based on a German game, Trendel, I think.
yeah.
Trendel,
Everything's going back to those the pagan, the Germans, everything.
nuts,
All this stuff is all going back there. Again, it's the whole winter solstice. That's where a lot of this stuff is all coming from. The whole idea of the winter solstice.
important.
And you're
So
seeing a lot more of that inclusion now too. I know when you go into the stores, you'll see a lot more Hanukkah merchandise. They'll be
yeah,
selling menorahs. They have I mean, it was on Shark Tank. It's like the Jewish version of Elf on a Shelf. It's called Mensch on a Bench. I'm just
never heard of that.
Yeah, it was on Shark Tank, and it was invested in. And it's the same basic premise. Right, it's like a rabbi basically. It's the same basic premise of Elf on a Shelf. But they have
Hmm.
they have that, and I keep on saying about that. There was recently a Hallmark Channel Hanukkah romance movie, which a executive during Hanukkah comes back home and finds true love. Very
Huh.
very heartwarming.
Awesome. it's very much very commercialized, just like Christmas.
It's
Very
westernized.
much.
You can see, commercialized, westernized. Any way they can make any sort of individuals, companies can make profit. Yes,
And actually, initially Hanukkah is celebrated primarily in the home. Like it's not in a synagogue. It's meant as a home
it's a
holiday.
family. Yeah, more of a family affair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, anything else before we go? I did find some wacky holiday traditions from around the world. I know Mexico. Did you hear that Mexico, the Night of the Radishes?
No, I'm not hitting the radishes.
December 23rd, right? Residents of one particular area of Mexico celebrate this Night of Radishes, where artists carve these oversized radishes into intricate designs inspired by traditional Mexican folklore. It's like a December 23rd tradition, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then you have in Spain the nativity figure of a guy that's literally going to the bathroom. Did you hear about that one?
No.
Catalonia, Spain. Christmas nativity scenes are not complete without a statue of El Cagnaner, I guess. It is, it's very controversial, but it depicts a person that's squatting bare bottom and answering the call to nature. And that's literally part of their nativity sets. And the church argues that it may be inappropriate, but it's tolerated by the church because it's become such a widespread tradition in the region of Spain where your nativity set has a dude that's literally taking a dump.
Well, whatever works. To each their own.
To each their own.
To each their own.
All right, you got anything else?
Well, just probably the most funny. We were talking about Christmas trees before. I guess kind of sums it up. But the most famous Christmas tree is probably the one at Rockefeller Center,
Mm-hmm.
and that actually started in construction workers who were working there. Put that up in 1931, and then it's been a tradition there ever since. To put up the Rockefeller Christmas. You ever go to the Rockefeller Center tree, Pete?
I have.
I never
It's
gone
been a
yet.
year.
I've gone, and it was very Rockefeller Center. Like you see it on TV, like wow. Then you go there, it is a lot smaller than you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say it's underwhelming, but it's like wow, this is the whole thing. Like it's not as big as you think it is. The trees there, that's when that tradition started, and it's I think
It
believe
was a Great Depression thing,
yeah,
wasn't it? A Great
Depression, yeah.
Depression thing.
That's also when they started putting the Great Depression when they started putting individuals started leaving cookies and milk for Santa Claus. Again, it goes
Yes.
back to North tradition. They always leave something, some sort of offering, but basically, when I think around the Depression, they started to leave something sweet out. And that's when it starts, the whole leaving cookies and milk for Santa Claus during like the years of the Great Depression.
Cool.
Now you have to do it.
I want cookies and milk now.
But that's always good.
All right. Well, I guess that right. I don't really have anything else. That was a lot of stuff.
We had a lot of stuff. I mean, it's probably a ton of stuff that we missed too, obviously.
Yeah. You know what I really want to do?
We can always do
really...
we can do an actual analysis of the He-Man She-Ra Christmas special. I'm just saying.
Of course. I mean, what I really want to do is I would love to do something about the holiday, the Christmas truce in World War One. I think
Yeah,
it's
that'd be
such
a
a
good
great.
idea. That'd be a good idea. Yeah.
So maybe. But
We got a
until
year.
then,
Have a year.
we have a year to ponder. Until then, just to remind you guys to, wherever you do listen to us, please make sure you hit subscribe. You wind up getting our episodes a little quicker than if you don't hit subscribe. And also, you could find us at History Teachers Talking Podcast on Facebook, and we are also on
Twitter,
on the web, on Twitter, and on the web at historyteacherstalkingpodcast.com. And we're also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So please do not be afraid to kind of reach out, email us with any questions or suggestions.
Yeah, we've been getting them. Everyone who has sent us to them so far, thank you. We appreciate it. Appreciate the feedback.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the suggestions. Absolutely.
So, and we have quite a few suggestions now. We're kind of scheduled them into our January schedule. So we're trying to get a little bit more organized. We're thinking ahead as opposed to like, hey, what do you want to do this week? We're getting a little better. We're getting a little better with this.
Here and there.
All right. So thank you for listening. For those of you that was the first time, thank you for coming in. For those of you that have been here for a few episodes or since the beginning, thank you. And until next time, guys, take care.
Yeah, take care. I have to go put the elf somewhere now. So have a good night, guys.
Later. I hope everyone enjoyed our podcast, and if you would like to email us, you can do so at historyteacherspodcast@gmail.com.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.